Hi, grade threes. Today we're going to learn what a bar graph is and how to read the bar graph. Let's quickly review what we learned yesterday about collecting data. The first step in collecting data is to ask a question. So, for example, I asked you which subject is your favorite, math, science, LA, or social studies? And I sent out this question in a survey that I had you do online. So, step number two, after you figure out what kind of question you want to ask, you want to collect your data by doing either an experiment or a survey. So, experiments are usually done when you want to find out things about the world around you. A survey is done when you are able to ask people your question. Step three is to organize your data in a table and then tally the results as they come in. So, like I said yesterday, surveys usually take a bit of time. Usually, they're not done in a day. It takes some time to collect the data. So, tallying the results as they come in is a great way to organize your data. When you're doing an experiment, that's sometimes a good idea to do some tallying, depending on what it is that you're doing. But most of the time, we just use a data to show our results. So, like I said yesterday, I still don't have enough data right now to show you your data. There were only 7 people that did the survey. And by the way, that's not enough data to actually come up with any real conclusions. So they actually say that 20 is about the minimum number that you want to have when you're collecting data to get any real valid results that you can actually make conclusions from. So here's my example where we're just like pretending that I'm getting your questionnaires back and I'm tallying the results as they come in. So I'm just using these tally marks to show which of your subjects are your favorite. And then once you've got all the data, then you can write the total number below your tally marks. And usually, so what we do is we just have those numbers shown when we're doing experiments. This is usually what we see. We just see the numbers. We don't see the tally marks. We don't include the tally marks when we're writing up a scientific experiment. But when you're collecting the data, you should show both the tally marks and then your total number. Step 4 then is to graph your results. So let's pretend that 5 people said that they said math was their favorite, 3 said LA was their favorite, 3 people said social studies was their favorite, and 6 people said that science was their favorite subject. So what we need to do is then make up a graph, and I'm going to be showing you tomorrow how to do this in more detail. But what you want to do is put your data along the axes of some graph paper. So at the bottom here, I've got our favorite subjects listed: math, LA, social, and science. So we call this axes right here along the bottom going horizontally the x-axis. Okay, and then we're going to label the y-axis, which is the vertical axis. This is going to be your result, or what you got out of your experiment. So here we're saying number of students who picked the different subjects as their favorite subjects. And then what we do have to do is come up with a number system that shows basically the minimum number of your data all the way up to your maximum number. And I just put 1 to 9 here because I thought that we'd actually have more results in, and I can show this a little bit better. But that's okay, we'll just use pretend results anyways. Okay, so once you've got both of your axes labeled, And now you are needing something really important, and that is the title. So the title, I always say, needs to be underlined. Use the force to do that. Use your ruler to make a straight line, okay? And now what we can do is graph the data. So we have math as 5 students, LA, 3 students picked, social, 3 students picked, and then science, 6 students picked as their favorite subject. So here I'm just showing you on the computer. If you were to do this on paper, you would be, remember I showed you in school how to do this. You want to outline your box in pencil and then shade it in. So remember, you're drawing a straight line across where your number should be. So for math, you would draw that straight line here and then fill in the box like so, and then color in that bar. Okay, this is why it's called a bar graph. Okay, so once you've made your bar graph, you can read your graph and then make conclusions from it. So when we look at this graph, you notice that science was chosen as the favorite subject. LA and social were tied, both at 3. You could also say from this data, you can also figure out how many people in total were actually surveyed. So I would say 6 plus 5 is 11, plus another 6 is 17 students completed this survey. And remember, this is just a pretend survey that I did. I'm still waiting for your numbers, so please fill out that survey if you haven't done it yet. Okay, now I wanted to show you that there's actually 2 ways that bar graphs can be drawn. And so what I want you to see here is that this graph up here is the way that I usually make my bar graphs. Okay, so along the x-axis, I always put the manipulated variable in an experiment, and then I put the responding variable on the y-axis. This is actually the proper way of showing data, but you may see bar graphs looking like this, where you've got your basically your manipulated variable on the y-axis and then the responding on the x. For me, which one do I prefer? I already told you that I prefer the top bar graph is what I like best. Okay. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew that there are other ways to draw the bar graph, okay? So again, in these bar graphs, everything is really there. Like, it's just that I'm gonna show you the X and Y axes have been really just flipped, okay? So there's the title, widths of footprints of some animals found in British Columbia. So there's the 2 titles, I've underlined them in yellow. And then we have labels on the axes that tell about the data. So here I've circled the type of animal on the bottom, and the type of animal in this graph over here is on the y-axis. So again, we still have the same data, it's just on different axes. Over here, we've got the width of the footprint in centimeters on the y-axis. In this graph, we have the width on the x-axis. Okay, and actually I didn't mean to go back so quickly. I wanted you to also see that these graphs were drawn on graph paper, and the numbers on the axes show the scale. So here, one square has a width of 1 centimeter. So you could take a look here and you can see that a cougar's footprint has a width of 8 centimeters. And again, on this graph down here, you can still see the same thing. So here's our cougar, and it's got a width of 8 centimeters. And you would just take your finger and just run it along the line to figure out how long or how wide the cougar's footprint is. Okay, it's easy to make silly mistakes when you are looking at bar graphs. So use your finger to run your finger along the line to get to the data point. to figure out whatever it is that you need to. Okay, so here we could make some conclusions based on this graph. We can say that the gray wolf and the lynx have the biggest or widest footprint. And again, I'm just pretending that my cursor is my finger and I'm running it along that line, and I see that they both have a 10 centimeter width footprint. Okay, and then the bobcat has the smallest width footprint, which is 5 centimeters. Okay, and again, I just like this bar graph better. This is a little bit more scientific, but again, you're going to see this in your homework assignment, so I added the other type of bar graph. Okay, let's do some questions together. So it says, for the life cycles unit, you research the lifespan of some animals and make a graph to show the data. How many animals did you research? So here you're looking at the bars to figure out how many animals you researched. So it's pretty easy to see because there's only 3 animals. You don't even really need to count them. You can just look at that visually and see that. Okay. Then it says which animal lives the longest, and it's very obvious that the kangaroo lives the longest at 9 years. And that was the next question. Which animal has the shortest lifespan? That is the queen bee at 5 years. Okay. So again, this is nothing new, grade 3s. We've done this all year long in science. Let's do another question. Your friends compared the number of stuffed animals they each have and made a graph to show the data. So here this is really nice. We have number of stuffed animals owned as the title. We've got our friends, 4 friends here, and then the number of stuffed animals that they have along the y-axis. First question says, who has the most stuffed animals? Obviously, it's Aaron at 10 animals. Next question, who has the least stuffed animals? Oh, it's a tie between Erica and Kara at 4 animals. How many stuffed animals do they have altogether? So here we have to just add up all 4 pieces of data. So 6 plus 4 is 10, plus another 4 is 14, plus 10 is 24. Okay. One more example. During soccer practice, you recorded the number of goals you made each day. You made a bar graph to show the results. And here's our graph. It says goals made during soccer practice. These are the days of the week. So it was just 3 days that you recorded your results, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And here is the number of goals that you scored on each of those days. So it says, how many goals did you score on Thursday? So we look at Thursday, we go up to the line, go across, and we see that there's 10. Now notice that this graph and the other graphs were not done on graph paper, but they still do have those horizontal lines so that you can see the data pretty easily. Okay. On which day did you score 7 goals? So we look actually now, this is a little bit different of a question, so it's kind of going backwards. It's giving us the result of the data, and then we have to figure out basically what we're looking at for which day of the week. So we're looking at 7 goals, go across, that's easy. It was Tuesday that we scored 7 goals. Last question, how many more goals did you get on Thursday than on Tuesday? Now remember, the key word here is how many more. So you're thinking in your head, this is subtraction. So I'm going to be subtracting the 10 goals that we got on Thursday minus the 7 goals that we got on Tuesday, gives us an answer of 3 goals that we got. So we got 3 more goals on Thursday than we did on Tuesday. Okay, hopefully that was a quick, easy review for you. So your assignment today is to complete the reading bar graphs assignment on pages 108 and 109 in your data analysis unit. Make sure you take a picture of your work and turn it in. This is going to be the second last lesson of the entire year. So please make sure you're doing your assignments, keeping up with your work. We are almost at the end, grade 3s.